20th in the league in yards per pass attempt, which is a key indicator that he's not getting the ball down the field. And given the weapons they have, that's something that him and Cliff Kingsbury can correct. And then third down. They have really struggled on third down. Right now, Kyler Murray's only completing 57% of his passes on third down. So those are three areas that he needs to get better. Now, he has all the ability in the world. I was wrong on him. I thought he was going to be too small. He's really dynamic. And if you go back to the game last week, he didn't play great against New England, but if they hit the 46-yard field goal, that game at a minimum is in overtime, and likely they beat New England.
Mike, what's the best current job opening in the NFL? You got the Lions, the Falcons, or the Texans. So you got three openings that sit there. What's the best one for one of these candidates that's out there?
Yeah, you always follow the quarterback, and you look at Houston, and I think Deshaun Watson right now, if you just look at how they're playing right now, Key, to me, he's top 5, maybe top 3 in the league. So you have a young quarterback. He's under contract. It all goes from there. You have a young owner that inherited the team. He's someone that hopefully you could work with and build with. So because of Deshaun Watson, I would start with the Houston Texans.
So that seems to be the reasonable choice. And by the way, I just wanted to mention on the Kyler Murray point, the teams are blitzing him a lot more now, a lot more. There's a great piece on ESPN Plus this morning talking about if indeed the code has been cracked, as Jay has said. Mike, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
All right, Mike.
Great to be with you guys. Thanks.
Yeah, you made a mistake right here sitting in this chair, but we won't mention that.
What are you talking about?
Because Mike said I made some fair share of mistakes.
Gotcha. Involving yourself, perhaps. All right, thank you, Mike. Straight Talk Wireless, no contract.
You know I'm never letting him get away.
I know you weren't. I saw your face. Zubin was paying attention to something else, and Mike said, I made my fair share of mistakes. Key raised his hand. He was like, right here. Right here.
So we're asking you this morning on the Dr. Pepper Twitter feed. You heard Mike's answer. Clearly seems to be the Houston Texans, and I would tend to agree considering they have the best situation at the most important position on the field, but we're simply asking you this morning, what's the best potential head coach opening in the league right now? Be a part of the Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin Nation on the Dr. Pepper Twitter feed. ESPN Nation, presented by Dr. Pepper. It's official. College football is back. So is your favorite Dr. Pepper-loving college football town, Fansville. Head to a store near you to treat your inner college football fan to an ice-cold 20-ounce Dr. Pepper today. So hit us up, 888-SAY-ESPN or Key J and Z, best potential opening right now. I think it's very fair to say if you look at the standings, at least a couple of more are on the way sooner rather than later. Let's go from A to Z.
From Cameron Indoor to the Coliseum and everywhere in between. From A to Z.
And A to Z is brought to you by Redbox. Redbox is line. And welcome in Mike Tannenbaum, the former front office GM. Mike, I was just saying, if you're Eric DaCosta, the Ravens GM, you've been dealing with this stress for the better part of a week. If you're Kevin Colbert with the Steelers and you're welcoming a team with an outbreak into your city, into your stadium, you've been there, done that at the highest levels of an organization. Just take me inside the mindset of these two men this morning as we get set for kickoff this afternoon.
The emotions are relief and excitement. Let's go play the game. This is a massively important game for both teams, guys, because if you're Pittsburgh, look, you want that 1 seed. We got to remember that only one team gets a bye, and they're sitting there neck and neck with Kansas City. As even though they're undefeated, they know they have no margin. So this is a really important game. And from a competitor standpoint, you know that you've been sitting around. So if you're the GM, you're worried that they could get it up in terms of game day, being ready to go. And if you're Baltimore, there's one player in particular I think there's a compelling storyline, and that's RG3. National game, undefeated team against Pittsburgh. You're shorthanded. If he plays well, he can make millions and millions of dollars and change really the trajectory of his career by saying, like, hey, I could be a starter again. So there's great storylines. And if I'm Eric DaCosta, I want to see what I have in RG3. This is a great opportunity for him.
Mike, should the league move forward with this game knowing that those two individuals tested positive out of the Ravens organization? Should they postpone this to another time?
You know, Key, I would really defer to the scientists and the experts. Like, we have to give the NFL some credit here. We're 2/3 of the way through the season. We've had a great product in terms of games on the field. And look, there have been some bumps in the road, and there'll be some more. And I think what we're seeing right now mirrors society. Their tests are positive across the board. So if it's safe, if the scientists are saying that within reason it's okay to play, then we should keep playing. And again, Dr. Sills, the expert for the NFL, still has data that says that you can't transmit the virus on the field of play, which I think is important. So maybe we go into the bubble as we get closer, but right now we should look back and say, hey, given the circumstances, this has been a really good NFL season.
Having been a former general manager, Mike, you certainly have faced some decisions that you've had to make, whether it's cutting players, trading players, moving on from players. The Eagles are facing something similar with Carson Wentz versus Jalen Hurts. The noise is getting louder as the season is going on. Have they handled this situation right?
You know, Key, it's getting close to saying no, because at the end of the day, as you know, the best players should play. And we've been in a situation where one year we traded for Rick Mirer. He wasn't very good. And we saw Coach Parcells bench him, that's right, and play Ray Lucas, an undrafted free agent out of Rutgers. He gave us a better chance to win. And when you're the head coach, the standard is the best players play. That goes for the left tackle. It also goes for the quarterback. Right now it's clear Carson Wentz lacks confidence. He cannot pull the trigger consistently. Jalen Hurts, we don't know. The only grade we could give Jalen Hurts is a grade of incomplete, but we know that he's young, he's athletic, he's competitive. So I think that window is closed. And if I'm Doug Peterson, I got to look at this objectively and say, who gives us the best chance to win?
Mike, the best chance to win is the line. I think that is Jalen Hurts. The one thing that Key keeps, pushing down on me is you have to follow the money. You have to follow the money. And if you were to do that, the money would deem that Jalen Hurts probably never sees the field because you're going to stick it through with Carson Wentz.
Yeah, Jay, well, at some point you have to move on and say the best players play. And, look, I've made a fair share of my mistakes in my career, and you figure out the money in the offseason. And what's odd about Carson Wentz is he's played well in the NFL, and oftentimes when you see a player that doesn't work out, a top 5 pick, they lack confidence, they haven't had success. He's had success, so it's really, if I'm Howie Roseman, the GM of the Eagles, this is a tough one because you've seen him play well. But again, one thing that people don't understand, as a general manager, as a head coach, your audience is your locker room, and they hold you accountable. And if they know that there's a better player at practice not playing, that's just going to cause a lot of frustration and tension. And that's why eventually you put the contracts aside and say, hey, what gives us the best chance to win? And the crazy NFC East, Philadelphia is still alive.
No, they are still alive. Keyshawn J. Will Zubin is presented by Progressive Insurance. Mike Tannenbaum on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line is joining us. Let me ask you again about Carson Wentz, Jared Goff. Could you see either or both at some point throughout the rest of the season, having to take a seat?
Absolutely. And Sean McVay, he's a half a step behind Doug Peterson because they were swept again by San Francisco, which is, if I'm Sean McVay, I have to ask myself the question, do I have the quarterback that could get us to where we want to go consistently and beat San Francisco? And right now, the answer is maybe not. And even though you pay Jared Goff, he may not be your long-term answer. And when I watch Jared Goff, when the pocket is clean, he has elite accuracy, touch on the ball, arm strength, he can drive the ball. But when he gets messy in the pocket, people are at his feet, I think he makes poor decisions. We saw it against Miami. We saw it this week against San Francisco. And I would have real concerns because a lot of times in the NFL, you have to make throws that are off platform or, again, when the pocket isn't clean. And that's something that he has not gotten better at.
Mike, let's go from one quarterback in the NFC West to another in the West, in the Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray. Have teams cracked the code on him? Have they figured out Cliff Kingsbury and the way Kyler Murray are going to do this?
Jay, well, I have 3 concerns when you break down Kyle Murray. First of all, he has 11 batted passes. He's short. There's nothing they can do about that except they got to keep the pocket firm to give him the best chance to get the ball out. Secondly, he's